critical for economic development, and it's critical for the environment. Wastewater, the water tells us, is water, so it can be used to offset water scarcity if we use the water. Furthermore, there are interesting byproducts in the wastewater. Nutrients that are absolutely critical for plant growth that can be reused in agriculture as fertilizer. Metals, certainly in industrial wastewater, you have metals that are interesting to recycle, reuse them for our telephones, etc., many other reasons. And third, there's a lot of organic content in that wastewater. That organic content enables us to produce bioenergy from that sludge. Yeah? And many wastewater treatment plants nowadays can be designed such that they are energy positive. So that means they're little powerhouses, so they generate energy not only to facilitate all the processes within the plant, but also to export energy from the plant. Furthermore, there's a plethora of different wastewater collection and treatment processes, methodologies. It's not necessarily the high-tech, the centralized big scheme that is the best solution locally. Often, certainly also in a developing country context, we learned that it's decentralized, small-scale solutions that use ecosystem services like constructed wetlands, that these solutions are very effective, also very effective in terms of quality of the effluent water, but also effective, they can locally deal with the problem. And they need usually much less investment, often only half of the investment, and have much lower operation and maintenance costs. So that makes these solutions very attractive. Final word, reuse is very important for agriculture, but it can go all the way up to reuse over industry and etc., but also reuse as portable water. And that has to do that we have to also realize it's not wastewater, it's not a waste we can feel uncomfortable with. We have to overcome the so-called yuck factor and see that wastewater, if properly treated, can be used very effectively, even up to drinking water. And the International Space Station is doing that since more than 17 years on space. You know, they're reusing the water again and again. And sorry, I'm repeating a joke, but this morning it can be tea in the morning, then it's discharged, so it's pee in the afternoon, and the next morning again it could be used to brush your teeth. That's how life is at the space station, and maybe we have to engage and start thinking also not only in space but also on Earth. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stefan. So my name is Joachim Harlin. I'm the Vice Chair of UN Water. I'm also heading up the freshwater unit of UN Environment. And we recognize World Water Day every year on the 22nd of March. And we have different themes, and wastewater is the theme this year. And we're very pleased to do this World Water Day celebration here in collaboration with South Africa, and also being able to do this in a more informed context, not just having a celebration, but also having an expo, having subsequent days here to discuss and really look at solutions for the future on this topic of wastewater, both treatment and reuse, safe reuse and recycling. Now I'd like to give the floor to President Jacob Zuma. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Director of the Program. Professor, are you suggesting that we should abolish the word wastewater, only use the used water? Is that the direction we are taking? Although I'm not impressed with the afternoon one. Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, ladies and gentlemen of the media, at the 2012 United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development, Rio +20, all member states recommitted to the human rights, to safe and drinking water and sanitation, and recognized that water is at the core of Sustainable Development. Following this commitment, the UN General Assembly and the Human Rights Council called upon countries to give appropriate consideration to the importance of human rights to safe drinking water and sanitation, and the principles of equality and non-discrimination. This is therefore one of the reasons why the high-level panel of water and sanitation through South Africa will today unveil the initiative on access to water and sanitation for 10 billion people, and further commit to adopt a political declaration for rollout by member states, in particular the African countries represented here today by African Ministers' Council on Water. I would now like to call upon the South African Minister of Water and Sanitation, Ms. Nomvula Mokonyane, to read the joint statement of the panel. I thank you.
Thank you very much, His Excellency President Jacob Zuma, a member of the high-level panel on water and sanitation. The joint statement reads as follows. In September 2016, we alerted the world to the combined effects of growing and changing populations, new patterns of intensive water use, increasing rainfall variability and pollution on the risks to poverty eradication and sustainable development. Floods and droughts are already imposing huge social and economic costs around the world, and climate change variability will make water extremes worse. If the world continues on its current path, projections suggest that the world may face a 40% shortfall in water availability by 2030, affecting at least 1.8 billion people. 6 months on from our call to action, we, the 12 leaders who make up the high-level panel on water, are demonstrating by our own engagements the importance of national action and regional and global cooperation for changing the way the world looks at water and how we manage it. Our call for action and action plan, released during the United Nations General Assembly on the 21st of September, sets out a transformative agenda, putting water at the center of the global agenda to deliver urgent change and foster synergies. This change requires increased political will and commitment to tackle water challenges at local, national, and international levels under the frame of SDG 6 and other related goals. To this end, we are proud to announce today the following actions as key steps on the road to sustainable and safe water world for our future generations. We are very pleased that following an initiative led by His Excellency Mr. Emomali Rahmon, the President of Tajikistan, the UN has adopted resolution number A/RES/71222, calling for a new international decade for action on water for sustainable development 2018 to 2028. Discussion at the UN will continue to raise awareness and mobilize support for the implementation of SDG 6. Recognizing that water is life, but also a cause of 90% of disasters, panel co-chair His Excellency Mr. Enrique Pena Nieto, the President of Mexico, is convening a meeting of the panel in Cancun on the 25th May to promote through Mexican leadership and best practices new initiatives on water and disaster risk education. The panel will meet leaders of the global platform for disaster risk reduction to agree on shared lessons and ways forward to prevent the loss of life and property due to water-related disasters. To address the goal of 10 billion people with access to water and sanitation by Excellency, Mr. Jacob Zuma, the President of South Africa, is launching the World Water Development Report in Durban, South Africa, focused on the theme wastewater, the untapped resource. Keeping in mind that transformation to a water-secure world is a huge task, requiring reconsideration of investment models and efficiency of operation of the water sector, His Excellency Mr. János Adair, President of Hungary, has initiated a dialogue with multilateral development banks and other stakeholders to renew cooperation aimed at significantly increasing investment in this sector. Panel members, including His Excellency Mrs. Amina Gourib, the President of Mauritius, His Excellency Mr. Macky Sall, President of Senegal, and His Excellency Mr. Pedro Pablo Kuczynski, President of Peru, are taking action in their own countries to accelerate the achievement of universal access through new service delivery and sector financing models. Recognizing the importance of data in water management, His Excellency Mr. Malcolm Turnbull, Australian Prime Minister, will tomorrow launch the panel's Water Data Initiative with a focus on policies, innovation and harmonization to improve access to water-related data. Prime Minister Turnbull will also announce the opening of a challenge to innovators to enable resource-poor farmers to have access to and make use of affordable and up-to-date water data. To strengthen sustainable water management and water use, His Excellency Mr. Mark Rutte, Prime Minister of the Netherlands, recently started a multi-stakeholder dialogue on the approach and principles for valuing water. This dialogue aims at developing a set of shared principles to motivate and encourage governments, business and civil society to consider water's multiple values and to guide the transparent incorporation of these values into their decision making. The dialogue will become global in early April with a web-based consultation and discussion on the draft principles. Regional multi-stakeholder meetings in several countries will be organized in the period of May until July 2017. For her part, Her Excellency Ms. Sheikh Hasina, Prime Minister of Bangladesh, will host a meeting of South and East Asian leaders in Dhaka on the 28th and 29th July to discuss ways and means of strengthening cross-border collaboration and boosting access to safe drinking water and sanitation in Asia. Special advisor to the panel, Dr. Hen Sweng-soo, former Prime Minister of the Republic of Korea, is hosting a dialogue tomorrow in the United Nations headquarters in New York on priority actions for water and disasters in the new water decade. He will co-chair a special thematic session on water and disasters at the UN headquarters in June and in July 2017. He will further launch a flagship document on investing to mitigate water-related disasters later this year. On this World Water Day 2017, we also recognize and salute the many people and organizations, government, private sector, civil society and academic who are working already hard, thinking differently and innovating to make sure that people have access to clean water and sanitation and ensure that our most precious natural resources, fresh water, is sustainably managed. The panel pledges to work closely and collaboratively with all stakeholders to ensure that the water-related targets of the 2030 Agenda and beyond are achieved, and we urge world leaders to support us in whatever way they can to this end. This is the declaration of the high-level panel on water on the 22nd of March 2017, as read by myself but presented by a member of the panel, His Excellency President Jacob Zuma. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So now we open up the floor for questions and answers. So please state your name and who the question is directed to. Yes, please. Yes. Do we have any walking microphone? No. Just say, I might have to repeat for you.
I'll try to be loud. My
Yes.
name is Alex Malafri. I'm from the Global Water Partnership. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for this wonderful initiative that has been launched to you and high-level panel. My question is on the 10 billion people access to water and sanitation. That's really critical for us in Africa. So I just wanted to find out, is there any authorization to back that with financing?
Thank you. So that was Mr. Alex Zimalawe from Global Water Partnership. The question was about improving access to water for 10 million people and if there's any backing with financial commitments. Correct? So I think I'll take a couple of questions. All right, so then while people are thinking on the questions, I'd like to give the floor to you, Minister, perhaps, or to the President, to respond to this question.
I work for my salary, you can see. Yes, part of the partners that we have, we've got the World Bank, we've got the Africa Development Bank, we've got various other institutions, and of course through the UN Water, and in the South African context, the South African Water Partnership Network. All of us are working on making sure that there are actions that are bankable, but of importance is political leadership in every country. There has to be political leadership that provides commitment by any government, and it can only come once a country has a plan, and the plan helps to realize the ultimate goals as set out in the SDGs. So the 12-member panel, amongst other things, are the ones who are encouraging and are the ones who are selling the partnership and the a collection of more and more support. I think we need to also appreciate that in many instances, money is the last of the many problems. The issue is about leadership, it's about absence of planning, it is about absence of partnership, particularly with the communities that we're supposed to be serving. It can't be something for them without them. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Do we have any more questions?
No.
Then we close shop, right?
Yeah.
Well then, thank you very much for attending and for your interest in this topic. This press briefing is now closed.
Thank you. We're now going to go through the exhibition site together with the panel led by the President.